Okay, so Jaws is 50 this year. It's a perfect film. You've heard the sentiment before, and I got some stuff I want to say about it. But instead of talking about its legacy over the past 50 years, its creation of the blockbuster, I want to talk about the actual, tangible, brick-and-mortar filmmaking of the movie. The decisions that Spielberg made as a young 26-year-old man are the reason that you and I love this film, whether or not you consciously recognize it. It's 1974. Richard Zanuck and David Brown are executives at Universal. They've got a hot new paperback on their hands, and they're searching for a director to bring it to the big screen. They start with veterans like John Sturges, director of famous studio pictures like The Magnificent Seven and The Great Escape. They wanted Ben-Hur on the water, until a young Steven Spielberg came into the office for something else and asked if he could read the book. Spielberg was a hot young kid who's fresh off his first two movies, a yet-to-be-released studio picture with Goldie Hawn called The Sugarland Express, and a popular TV movie about a man being stalked and attacked by a faceless, threatening truck driver. Sound familiar? Spielberg's enthusiasm made them realize his fresher perspective and modern sense of humor were the ticket to success. He was hired, and the rest was history. This decision by Zanuck and Brown is perhaps the most consequential one in the history of the film industry.
We delivered the bomb.
So, what did Spielberg do differently? Everything. Stuff like this and this. You see, Spielberg was part of the first generation that grew up on movies. Guys like Martin Scorsese, George Lucas, Brian De Palma. They were known as the movie brats, a generation of kids who grew up on John Ford, Alfred Hitchcock, Akira Kurosawa, and studied film in an academic setting. So when Spielberg got the big gig, he had 70 years of the art form swirling around his head. Hitchcock's suspenseful gaze, David Lean's operatic staging, and of course, John Ford's framing techniques. If you've heard one behind-the-scenes story about Jaws, it's likely that the shark didn't work.
Guys, we can't shoot right now, hold on.
So what does young Steven do? He puts us inside of the head of the shark, literally. Forget trying to get a 2-ton hunk of steel to ride along a track on the bottom of the ocean. We're putting the camera in a box, and the rest is history. Back to shooting. The effect is harrowing, like watching a roller coaster slowly tick towards the top of a ride. We're just waiting for the screams. Blood, rather than the shark, becomes the dominant indicator of violence. In the first moments with Brody, his son walks in presenting a bloody hand, an immediate visual warning to the audience of what's to come. Get used to this shade of red. But what else? Dolly work. Spielberg is a master of blocking, the art of staging the characters in camera. His best work often contains a 3-act structure within a single shot. Is this a wide? No, it's a tracking 2-shot. Wait, now it's a close-up. Spielberg knows how to ratchet up the tension across a single scene while keeping the visuals fresh and engaging. The result?
We've got a panic on our hands on the 4th of July.
The key here is efficiency, expressing the necessary information in as simple a visual manner as possible, only cutting when you need to. Filmmaking is editing, and Spielberg was no amateur at this. His parents took him to see Cecil B. DeMille's The Greatest Show on Earth when he was 8 years old, and he became obsessed. Days later, he was editing his own 8mm versions of the sequence, fixated on the spectacle of the train crash. Russian montage and French New Wave editing styles were all the rage for these movie brats, collaging all their fanaticism and influences into a new form of cinema that was emerging in the 1970s.
I'm Luke Skywalker, I'm here to rescue you.
So, possessed with the technique and prowess of his idols, young Steven got to work. Take any moment from Jaws and you'll find the influences of our greatest auteurs. Let's start with the beach scene, a masterclass in pacing and tension. Our camera starts by tracking left, following a woman into the water. But just as our eyes settle to the motion, young Alex Kittner crosses the frame from the left, motivating the camera to begin following him back up the beach until we settle neatly into a 2-shot. This is shot on a longer lens, which gives the feeling of watching from afar. There's a passive sense of voyeurism from the frame. These characters don't know they're being watched, just like the victims of the shark. Alex stands up and continues up the beach as the camera tracks and zooms out until we land on the source of our watching eyes, Chief Brody. Now we're sitting right with our subject, which creates an emotional synchronicity to what he sees and feels. His wife and friends chat right in the background, but our hero remains fixed on the water. A series of single shots set the stage. A woman floating peacefully, a boy eager to keep swimming, and a young man and his dog. It's a seemingly idyllic scene, but like Brody, we're not only ready for the worst, we're anticipating it with every cut. I called out these wipes earlier. Their influence could be sourced from Hitchcock's work, in this moment from Psycho. But Spielberg takes it a step further, as each wipe moves us closer and closer to our subject and observer, a rhythmic flow of concern and relief, a rising and falling, like the tides of the beach, until finally, our dramatic craving is fed. The visual grammar of this sequence is incredibly simple. The shots are clean, thought-provoking, and easy to follow. There's no overly stylized flourishes, excessive camera movement, or flashy cuts. Spielberg is using the most basic elements of his tool belt, synthesizing sound and image into something greater than the sum of its parts. Tony Zhao and countless others have discussed what's become commonly known as the Spielberg oner. This ferry scene is perhaps my favorite shot in all of cinema. As Tony and others point out, it's the shifting background that keeps this shot dynamic and engaging throughout. But the blocking of the actors is really what sells this sequence. We start with a stately wide shot. Each character faces left, except for Brody, who's facing right. This creates a subconscious sense of anxiety. Our hero is outnumbered by the mayor's gang of bullies. As the characters move closer, affecting a tighter 3-shot, the tension and sense of urgency ratchets up. Finally, Brody is pulled into the last position, a tight close-up between him and the mayor. Brody, like us, has nowhere to move. We're right in the action. It's in this claustrophobic standoff that the looming threat of violence becomes most palpable. A filmmaking clinic in under 2 minutes. This style of blocking can be observed in even the most basic story beats of Jaws. Spielberg understood how precious an audience's attention span can be, and knows how to keep our eyes on the ball, no matter how fast it may be moving. But all the technical prowess in the world means nothing without giving the audience something to care about. Character is the defining backbone of Jaws. These are real people with raw, palpable emotion that lives beyond their time on screen. These 3 men have observable desires and fears, a past that drives their decision-making, just like you and I. In Brody's first scenes, we can observe that he's out of his element, used to the bustle of the mainland. Amity Island, he'll soon learn, operates at his own speed, one he grows increasingly uncomfortable with. He doesn't know how to work the phone, doesn't know the protocol for a missing person. He's just getting the lay of the land before he's shipped off to sea to face a seemingly insurmountable threat. Hooper's ironic sensibility and boisterous attitude acts as a counterweight to Brody's frightened state of mind and Quint's obsessive nature, giving the film a steady dose of levity. Often he's used as a vehicle for exposition, keeping us informed of the stakes.
You screw around with these tanks and they're gonna blow up!
But it's in moments like this, when Hooper runs out of clever lines, that Jaws reveals its humanity.
I got no spit.
He's no longer an ambitious kid pining for the cover of National Geographic. He's just scared.
Try and keep them off me until I'm lower.
What begins as near caricature with Captain Quint turns to stark reality as his dark past is revealed and fervor for hunting sharks explained, transforming his swashbuckling disposition into a performance that grows more reverential and tortured by the minute. The decision of making him a victim of the USS Indianapolis was a brilliant form of characterization, bringing the weight and trauma of the greatest generation into new Hollywood.
I'll never put on a life jacket again.
It's this moment, a mere 18 minutes after that line, that we see Quint's bravado drop for the first time. He's accepted his fate and is ready to die battling the great fish in near mythic fashion. But the greatest moment of Jaws may not even be aboard the Orca, or near the sea at all, but in Brody's dining room, in which he shares a tender moment of reflection with his son, too young to understand the weight of the situation. Quiet moments like these are often the first to be cut in the world of action movies. They're too risky in flattening the audience's attention span. But the room to breathe that Spielberg allows here is what gives dramatic propulsion to the rest of the film. It puts fire in our belly and courage in our hearts. In other words, they don't make them like this anymore.
Give us a kiss.
Why?
Because I need it.
To say that Jaws has left an imprint on the film industry is a massive understatement. It's perhaps the most consequential piece of art of the 20th century, given how much it's formed our current fixation on spectacle and profit. 50 years is a long time in the film industry, nearly half its lifespan as a popular medium. These days, it's the passion that's missing in big-budget storytelling. Back in 1975, Spielberg wasn't seeking to make a global blockbuster. He was looking to replicate the experiences he had as a kid for a new generation. He wasn't concerned with the machinery of franchises, but with pushing the language of cinema forward. Every scene, moment, and frame reveals an artist wrestling with limitations and turning them into opportunities for invention. It's that reason that Jaws' wake is still felt on our shores today.
No!